Hello and welcome to the Al Monitor Brief. It's Tuesday, June 25th. I'm Kristen Tolman. Today's main segment is going to be a sliver of a conversation that Al Monitor's Israel editor Rina Bassist had with NATO Deputy Secretary General. But first, let's get you caught up on the headlines. Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei on Tuesday called for high participation in Friday's presidential election to replace Abraham Raisi, who died last month in a helicopter crash. Gaza's civil defense agency said an Israeli airstrike early Tuesday killed 10 family members of Hamas's Qatar-based chief Ismail Haniyeh, including his sister. Families of those killed in Hamas's October 7th attack inside Israel sued the United Nations agency supporting Palestinian refugees on Monday. Israel's Supreme Court ruled Tuesday that the government must conscript ultra-Orthodox men for military service and instructed the state to freeze the allocation of funds for all rabbi institutions that do not comply starting April 1st. Turkish Foreign Minister Fidan argued on Monday that Cyprus was becoming an operation center in the Israel-Gaza war and warned its estranged Mediterranean neighbor not to become a part of the larger conflict. And now on to Rina's conversation.
A little bit about the program launched under your leadership recently of the southern neighborhoods. Can you explain why the launching now when you are very much preoccupied with Ukraine?
You know, security is indivisible. When we work in a logic of 360 degree. Russia is not only so murderous in Ukraine, but is also very dangerous in the Middle East, in Africa. You see the Russian warships, docking in Tripoli the other day. We are seeing the former Wagner Group, the Africa Corps, taking over in the Sahel in many places. So for us, the East and the South, they're not separate entities. There's basically the same logic, like the North or cyber or space. We don't treat these things as separate issues. So we are looking through a 360 degree. We have lots of partnerships. We have 36 or 7 nations that are partners of NATO, many of them in the South, in our South. Israel is one that we worked a lot and we exchanged information, and I visited your country before October 7th, and we also have plans with many of our partners. With Jordan, there is a plan to open a NATO liaison office in Amman. We have a center in Kuwait. We are working with many other countries in the Mediterranean dialogue and also in the Gulf region. Because we try to project stability as much as we can. There is also something about NATO that we are the gold standard when it comes to security and to military capabilities. So many of our partners are also interested in making sure that they through the partnership, individual partnership with NATO, they also get state-of-the-art training and capacities. But of course, we know that the Middle East is now in so much tension and so much upheaval, and we hope that as soon as possible things will come back to a more political and diplomatic course. The Abraham Accords would eventually continue because that's something that is the only way to stabilize the Middle East, and of course to see how issues in Gaza and the West Bank will evolve.
Let me ask you, because you mentioned briefly the Middle East dialogue, and we have also the Istanbul initiative. At least the Middle East dialogue at the moment seems stalled, dead, perhaps even. How do these two initiatives integrate? Are they part of the new Southern Neighborhoods policy?
We'll be inviting all our partners at the foreign minister level for our summit in Washington. Our partnerships are not dead. That's a complicated period now, but individually, all these partnerships are individual. They're tailored for the needs of each country. The one we do, let's say, with Mauritania is not the same the one we do with Israel. They're different because the countries are different. And we are very respectful of the individual needs of each of our partners. So the partnerships do continue. But it's true that the region is now in a very complex moment because of Iran's actions, about the complications in Gaza, We see also Hezbollah and Houthis and others, the Iranian proxies. So if we say 360-degree security for NATO, we're also seeing that Israel also is looking to 360-degree security for your country.
Let me go a little bit into details about this southern policy, southern neighborhood policies, and you had a very successful, I think, setup of a mission for training in Iraq. Do you see this model being reproduced either in North Africa, the Middle East, the Sahel? Is this something you would like to follow up on?
The Secretary General has appointed a group of experts to give us some fresh ideas. Because, number one, there's no one-size-fits-all in NATO. So every partnership is individual. The Iraqi government is asking us to basically have a training and education mission. That's what we do, not more. Exactly what our partner asks from us. Mauritania is asking for some things, others are asking for other things. Others are basically more limited in what they require from us. So we are very respectful of the needs of our partner. But the menu, if you want, the toolbox that NATO can offer is quite wide and it's quite sophisticated. But it's up to each individual partner to say, I would like more of cyber, I would like more of counterterrorism, I would like more of education for our militaries, I would like to have something on fighting disinformation, hybrid warfare. So each partner has its own needs, and we are trying to satisfy as much as possible those specific needs. So Iraq is not identical to something that we do. What we'd like to have is to have the broadest possible and the deepest possible partnership with each of these partners, because that will be good for them, will be good for us, will be good for stability in our southern flank.
So you speak about a tailor-made partnership with each of the exterior partners, but do you see also, do you have a more general policy for each of these three regions, for the Sahel, for North Africa and the Middle East? Is there also a regional approach or just an individual per country?
It's both. And it's a more global approach. We're looking at Africa, even if we don't have, for the time being, we have no partnership in sub-Saharan Africa for the time being. We were discussing with Ghana at a certain point. Now we are talking actively with Cabo Verde. They came to us asking for partnership. Allies are now considering this issue. So we love a lot we looked how the president of Kenya, speaking of Washington, was received at the White House. So for the time being, NATO is only in Northern Africa and the Gulf countries. Gulf countries 4 out of 6. There were contacts with Saudi Arabia on our side. Secretary General has met some of their leaders, and we hope that we'll be able to do much more work. Also, NATO is working with the United Nations. They came to us in order to support the training for the peacekeepers of the United Nations. That's something that we do with great interest and great pleasure. So we are individual, regional, and more global in everything we do, because they are pieces of the same puzzle.
Let me take you to the days before October 7, and with the Abraham Accords that you mentioned at the time, there were a lot of talks in Israel and maybe in other countries also about creating in the Middle East a sort of a NATO-similar alliance, or at least draw from your experience. Do you think something like that is still feasible at some point in the future?
You know, each region has its own specificities, and the Middle East is, of course, a very complex, mosaic of countries, of interests. And there was a discussion many years back. I remember when I was foreign minister of Romania, a discussion of a OACE type in the Middle East. I think the Middle East, with the support of all of us, should come to its own arrangement, which is unique to the region. Learning from what we do, good in NATO, what the EU does well, what the OSCE does well, what the African Union does well. In the end, the most important part is for this region to get some stability, to get security, and making sure that all the people in the region have a better life. Because we are concerned of the fact that, economic conditions and climate change drive security implications in the Middle East, illegal migration, terrorism. So the sooner the countries in the region will come to some form of understanding. The Abraham Accords, again, I remember President Herzog, when he was visiting with us a few months back, I had the privilege to chair the council, the first Israeli president to address the North Atlantic Council, that he urged allies to support in any way we can, directly, indirectly, the Abraham Accords. And we know that the discussions with Saudi Arabia were relatively advanced. But of course, the war in Gaza and the complications around the Palestinian issue are making issues a little bit more complicated. We hope and we encourage the region to come to some form of framework that will provide stability, security, and prosperity for all the countries in the region.
That's it for today, June 25th. You can read all these stories, including the full story on Rina's conversation with NATO Deputy Secretary on almonitor.com.